All right, so we are the return on social company. My background was a little lengthy, sorry about that. One of the things that I wanted to get across though was the various disciplines that I actually saw. Definitely a product of the dot-com boom and bust, and have seen some of the things that have taken place time and time again that has helped us arrive at the conclusion that, as Amish said, put away the tools, start measuring, start understanding how things get back to return. And ultimately, we've decided as a company to go out and define ourselves as the return on social company, recognizing that one of the biggest areas of problem and focus for this group and the people that are at this conference are actually really starting to understand what social does for the bottom line of their business. And I used to start off this presentation with this slide and used to say something different. I used to say something to the effect of, oh, we're all excited about social, and the reason is 900 million people joined Facebook. Right? And we all know better than that. And in fact, now I say we are all excited about social despite what Facebook is doing, because the media is clearly ripping them a new one. The fact is, social is not Facebook. It's not Twitter. We know this. Social is a behavior. It just so happens we now have media platforms to encourage, to foster that behavior. And people are absolutely behaving socially. And we can see this now. The average user is connected to 80 different brands in one way, shape, or form, and over 130 friends. 1 in 5 minutes online is spent being socially connected. We know this. Social is huge. And brands do need to be involved. But one of the issues is brands have a tendency to get caught up in chasing things. And as we've seen over the last 12 months, 4 of the largest brands online have actually opened and closed their Facebook commerce stores. And some people started freaking out and saying, oh my God, it's the end of social. We know better. You're going to hear that a lot. We know better. But what we also know is the reason why those pages closed is because, again, it's about behavior. And with respect to e-commerce, users are actually behaving in an interesting way. Websites are still outpacing Facebook fan pages in terms of visits by 100 to 1. And websites are outpacing F-commerce in terms of 150 to 1. So we really need to understand how this behavior affects our brands, how we should use this behavior to impact our bottom line and increase our return on social. Now again, you heard my background, product of dot-com boom and bust. The last time there was a major behavioral shift, people said, I'm willing to go online and look at things. Travel, music, porn, give credit where credit is due. Brands said, not on the porn part, brands said, I need to get involved. And they thought, all right, the best thing I can do is go get impressions, go get eyeballs. Yep. Does anyone remember what logo that actually was? Pets.com. Yep, that came and went pretty fast. And all of a sudden, here I was a few years ago overseeing this digital investment portfolio of hundreds of millions of dollars, recognizing some of the largest brands in the world. Literally, we're spending tens and millions of dollars chasing fans. I need to go get fans. I need to go get followers. We know better than that. Because the problem is fans and followers don't necessarily equate to bottom line impact. So the question then becomes, can fans and followers add to the bottom line? The answer, according to the ecosystem, is yes. One of the things that we actually did is we put out what's known as the Echo Rank, which we took a look at the top 500 internet retail brands, and we started tracking them over time on hundreds of data points that fall into 3 different categories. The first one being website performance, the second one being user engagement, and the third being social integration. What we found on our second release was that brands who actually have stayed on the list of the internet retailer top 500 from 2010 to 2011 had on average a 20% increase in sales. But the companies that made the top of our list, the Echo Rank, which again weights those brands that are using social to a much higher extent, their increase in revenue year over year was over 45%. Social does drive sales if you know how to use it. The question is how? So everyone out there will see that there are, and have heard and have interacted with a number of companies that say, I got to go out and engage my consumer base. I got to engage, I got to engage, I got to engage. How? Why? It's not just about engagement. It's not just about getting them to fans so that you get access to their social and interest graph. It's not just about getting someone to become your follower so you now have the ability to speak to them and hopefully they listen. If you actually look at your e-commerce ecosystem, everyone defines this differently, 3 phases, 7 phases, whatever it is. I've categorized it into 5. That there's prospecting, pre-purchase, purchase, post-purchase, and loyalty. The contention here, or the thesis here, is that if you actually infuse social intelligence first, so that you can use what we've been doing in marketing for a long, long time, which is segmentation, custom content, better messaging, etc., then you could properly engage your user base and improve your results across all areas of the e-commerce ecosystem. I'll give you examples to make this tangible for everyone in the room. The first one, from a prospecting perspective. I, originally from Chicago, now live in New York, was and am a live music junkie. Go to literally hundreds of shows. And when I was a 23-year-old kid, I didn't have a lot of money to front ticket purchases for my friends. And so what would happen is I was the guy who would go out, I'd find the concerts that we wanted to go to, I would send my friends the link, I'd say, buy your tickets, we're going to a show. And these 3, Aaron, Benny, and Matt, were great about going to shows. They sucked about finding their own shows, but that's neither here nor there. They were great at jumping on board. My frustration was that Ticketmaster didn't see me as having more value than their average customer. What they should have been doing is actually giving me exclusive access to content, first looks at concert tickets, etc. That's a nice to have. The bigger problem is when I moved to New York and my zip code changed to 10007. Tribeca. And therefore my profile in the Ticketmaster database actually ended up changing. So what happens? They stopped sending me Chicago concert listings. Those 3 stopped going to concerts. Tickets and purchases go down. That's a miss. You have to be able to connect transactional and socialized information and stop seeing your users just based on their own purchasing power so that you can truly understand who your most valuable customer segments are so that you can prospect based off of the likelihood that you will add the most to your bottom line. Second, pre-purchase. You got to look at explicit and implicit data. Let's just say we're working with a company that is a giant mart of goods. I'll use me again. Historically only went to that store for one thing, purchases of white t-shirts. Well, that means in my CRM database, or in their CRM database, they only saw me as making purchases of white packaged t-shirts. Whereas if they actually tapped into my social and interest graph, they would see I'm a sports enthusiast. And they sell sporting goods, but they have never made that connection. You need to be able to tap into interest to understand what are the other areas of focus that you can start making product recommendations to your users because they are more than one-dimensional. They act differently than just what they make purchases with respect to your sites and your properties. Third, motivation. One of my favorite questions that's asked every 4th quarter by most e-commerce companies is, should we offer free shipping? How many people have asked that question one time in there we go. My response, to who? Not everyone will respond to a free shipping offer. Of course, we know this. But what are people motivated by? Some people are motivated much more on the transactional scale, discounts, things like free shipping. Other people are motivated much more by access, first look, content, so on and so forth. By being able to, again, look at both transactional and social information and the behavior that is social, you'll start to learn which one of these your users have a higher propensity to actually respond to. Some people might not want free shipping themselves, but they might want to be able to give free shipping to their friends. You just need to be able to understand which of your customers that are hitting your websites actually are motivated by one versus the other. This is my favorite example, post-purchase. Cartoon says one thing about beer, you never get buyer's remorse. It's pretty true. We know from a lot of studies that most internet retailers are facing oftentimes return rates that range anywhere from 9 to 40%. We could say all we want about custom content and responses to advertising and all, whatever we want to talk about with respect to driving new customers. But if you're looking at return rates of 40%, this is one of your biggest problems that exists. And so the philosophy behind this is actually taking a look once again at and recognizing a majority of that return rate, especially in clothing and whatnot, is things don't fit the right way. However, we also realize that oftentimes users will make purchases, and for whatever reason, they'll start to take a look at, did I spend too much? Is it really the right color? Do I really need this? They start to get what's known as buyer's remorse. If at the point that someone makes a purchase, if you recognize that they have a propensity to be socially engaged, you get them to take a survey. You get them to post their purchase by whatever motivations you've learned based off of the purchase itself. You can actually get them to wear that purchase as a badge of honor, thus reducing their likelihood of actually making that return. And if you can even reduce your return rates by just 1 absolute percentage points, you're literally talking about millions of dollars. Social intelligence, then social engagements, does lead to a higher return on investment. And then the last one becomes loyalty. Customers expose opportunities. If someone went to an organization and said, I want to know who in your organization is responsible for understanding your customers' wants and needs and understanding how your customers respond to your brand and how your brand is supposed to interact with its customers, can you tell me the one person that's responsible for that? Everyone would look at you like you were crazy. That's the responsibility of every single person in the organization. Well, social is the largest behavioral database that has ever existed that we can tap into now to understand things like that can affect decisions along supply chain, inventory decisions, as we said, motivations, et cetera. This is not just a marketing problem. And more times than not, in the companies we're talking to at least, social is being divided up against your e-commerce owners, your marketing teams, your CRM folks, and there isn't a common language amongst most of those folks to be able to even decide how to handle social, with the exception of if you can demonstrate that social does impact your bottom line, that it can add sales. Now all of a sudden you have the opportunity to bridge the gap and have these three groups start to work together seamlessly. How? What are the current challenges? Well, first and foremost, people get fascinated by just going out and engaging. In this instance, the example being cutting, because measuring is not all that much fun. And we know there is a fascination that says, I've got 1 million fans, I've got 2 million fans, I've got 500,000 followers. That's fine and dandy, except with our research, we actually found that on average, most brands on a monthly basis only have between 0.1% of their fans and followers, and at most 4% actually engage with them. Engage being comment, retweet, share, post, etc. Which means you really have to start measuring to understand who the most valuable segments are, how you can learn from them, and how you can end up modeling that to make better decisions across the rest of your organization. But what I'm talking about is a boil the ocean philosophy. Yeah, let's infuse social in every single point in the ecosystem. Let's integrate our databases, 30 of them. We know we've got CRM, CMS, ad serving. We know we've got all these things, and you're telling me that I need to go to my IT department and say that they're going to have to infuse social and we're going to have to get all the way down to a single transactional and social-based system? Yeah, right. It wouldn't get done. So I'm not sitting here telling you to boil the ocean. What I'm saying is there are things out there from a measurement perspective that can start to equip the decision makers in the organization with insights that allow them to start making progress. Progress, not perfection. And here's an example. One of the companies that I was talking to a couple of years ago, it's an up-and-coming e-commerce company out of Chicago called Mighty Nest, environmentally friendly products for the home. I'm talking to Chris, their CEO, and he sits to me and he goes, hey Lance, business is good. I got 23,000 fans. Well, congratulations, Chris. And he goes, do you know how many customers I have in my database? 23,000? Nope, 500. And he had no idea whether the 23,000 fans, which ones of those turned into the 500 customers, and he didn't know whether the 500 customers actually turned in or were part of the 23,000 fans. This is foolish. He knew it. He was being sarcastic. He's a good guy. He's incredibly smart. But there are things that can be done right away to start making progress, as we said before. There are technologies that exist, and I promise not to be up here to hawking the ecosystem, but if you do want to ask us questions, we've got a booth outside or in the exhibit hall. You can start to learn the social engagement level of 100% of your website visitors, all the way down to the average revenue per visit, to simply recognize whether deeper social engagement does actually add to the bottom line. If you as an e-commerce owner, a marketer, a person responsible for social or CRM, if you can walk in with the database or with the data that has proof that says deeper social engagement actually does lead to bottom line sales, now you can change the whole conversation and really talk about how you can invest into your social strategy. By that same token, it's not just about aggregate numbers. You need to understand who the individuals are that actually add to your bottom line, not just transactionally, but also socially. Steal a phrase from Jeff Jonas, IBM's leading fellow on big data, who says, when you put data to data and data starts finding itself, you can have a better version of the truth. When you start to look at the transactional and social combination and interest, influence, shopping, and sharing, you can start to truly see who your most valuable customers are. And recognize that I very much have a different profile for J. Crew than I do Victoria's Secret. And therefore, having one single influence-based score may not be the best way to go. You need to understand the influence as it pertains to your users for your specific brand. It also will expose opportunities. You're probably going to have a data problem. You're probably going to recognize that I only know a fraction of my most influential users' social habits. Therefore, then you have the opportunity to decide how you want to invest and how you want to deploy your social resources. Do I start targeting just those users so I can get them to socially engage and then understand the data and expose how I can talk to some of the other folks that aren't as valuable as my top segments? But this data starts to allow you to make decisions beyond just social investment. What are the brands that I'm most connected to? What are the websites that my users actually use the most? You can see specifically which companies you should be looking at co-branded sponsorships with, where you should advertise, what content messages you should start speaking to your users on site, in commercials, wherever you want to talk to them at. And you can also understand the formats that they respond to best and the timing of the messages that also resonate with them the most. So the best is in execution. Quick case study. We work with Tatsi, flash sales site for moms. Some of you might have heard about them. They're an up-and-coming e-commerce website. So we installed our free measurement platform, right? Free measurement platform that allows you to see the social engagement level of 100% of your website visitors. And what we got real quickly, right away, was two insights off of this measurement platform. First and foremost was that their fans are actually worth 63% more revenue per visit than their social visitors. Now, these are people who are social but have never engaged socially with Tatsi. We're not even talking about non-social visitors. These are social visitors, and Tatsi's fans were worth 63% more revenue per visit. And what we also realized is Tatsi at the time got roughly 1.3 million visitors to their website per month. They had about 200,000 fans at that time. What we were able to see, though, is roughly 800,000 people on a monthly basis were coming to Tatsi's site, were part of a social network, were engaging with their brand, but had never socially engaged with their brand. So we said, why go out to the social networks to go get more fans and followers when you actually have a captive audience on your site that you could directly socially engage them and tie it to a sale? And that's exactly what we did. We ended up building a site-side plugin that dynamically used the information that we had. Someone shows up, they're social but not yet a fan, become a fan. They're a fan, they haven't shared, share. If they've done both and haven't connected, connect. And if they've done all three, wonderful. Here's an offer of some sort. The results were actually quite impressive. That within the first 2 weeks, we drove 20,000 new fans. We drove 8,000 new members, giving Tatsi access to their social and interest graphs. We drove over $50,000 worth of sale. Tatsi was thrilled. And we said, but we haven't done anything yet. All we did was capitalize on the audience you actually had to provide more data based off of what social really is, a behavior. The more important thing that we delivered to Tatsi was actually over 800,000 user profiles, what we call our echo effect profiles, which that means each user is now algorithmically ranked against all the other users that come to the website based off of their shopping, sharing, interest, and influence information. So when you're talking about CRM and understanding how to motivate users, when you're looking at your top and most valuable prospect segments, this is where that information starts to come in handy, and that's exactly what we've done. We've started to use it for them to segment emails. We started to use it for them to have better communication on their fan pages and through Twitter. It just continues to resonate with every touch point in the e-commerce ecosystem. So to sum it up, you got to measure first. Don't get caught up in just chasing engagement. Measure, diagnose where your best opportunity is, and then go improve your return on social. Thank you very much. Questions?
Questions in the room? Oh, some back here.
So in a larger company, we're all spread out with our social. We have engagement, we have brand, we have the digital team, and then we have e-com, and then we have our B2B.
Yeah.
And so how do you kind of suggest, because to measure, you have to measure all of those. Like, how do you suggest kind of bringing those all together and tying it all back in?
So it's exactly the reason why we actually said let's have a measurement platform first. We realize there are a couple key words that are the goals of each of these departments, and that's what you got to recognize. What are the goals of the departments, and ultimately what is everybody motivated by? Their compensation, which is typically tied to certain goals. And so we realized e-commerce is about conversions and profitability. We realized marketing was about lift and actual volume of people that they brought to touch points. And we realized CRM was also about conversion, but in the factor of lifetime value. What we realized is that actual sales and roll-up of sales was the #1 data point that actually all three groups spoke of and needed to speak to. And so what we simply went out and said, can we create a single data point that allows all of these three folks to come together, which was average revenue per visit. Now, for the e-commerce person, they're able to see my average revenue per visit with deeper social engagement is higher. I want deeper social engagement. The marketer can say, as deeper social engagement starts to take place, I can drive more revenue per visit. I should go out and do more with social. And the CRM person says, the deeper someone's socially engaged has higher revenue per visit. I want to talk to those people that are actually deeper from a social engagement perspective. I want to learn from them much more so that it can enhance my strategy. I suggest that you take it down to a single data point and allow all of the groups to start working from the same language. Common language becomes critical in business, and if you can, that's where I would suggest.
Okay, we have a question back here.
So you talked about higher revenue per visit. So from an execution perspective, is that what Pixel on the site, or are they actually sharing CRM data to your tool to draw that connection?
Let me repeat the question so I understand. How do we actually figure out the revenue per visit total? Yeah. So the platform is site-side installed. First party, we are not in the business of taking someone's data. All the data that's collected is then owned by the marketer themselves. It's site-side installed so that and what our technology does is able to actually see what the social engagement level of each visitor is, and because we are site-side installed, we can map that directly to a sale. Now, one of the things that we would go back to you and say, is your website sales the only component of sales that you actually want to look at? No. We would say, why wouldn't you then incorporate your point of purchase data into that same database as well? If I walked in, though, to a marketer and said, what we're going to do is we're going to tag your site. We're going to also then take your point of purchase data. We're going to start mapping these things together. We're going to then look at any other form of sales that you have, and we're going to start mapping that together too. It'll never happen. That's the type of project that gets crushed before anyone even gets going. So if we can start small by just doing a simple JavaScript installation and tracking pixel to then tell you what, again, the 100% of the visitors that come, what social engagement level they have, and map that directly to how much they're purchasing, now you have the ability to equip each of the departments with that common data point so that we can then be empowered to make what the next investment decision might be, which could be a 10-hour-long project of importing your point of sale data. Or it could just be things are great, let's go out and get more prospects. It just becomes a very staged approach to how you actually start leveraging social in your business to make better educated decisions so that you can drive the highest return possible. Does that answer your question? Cool. Yep.
Yeah, just to further follow up on something you said, when you say that essentially to convey to the site owner what level of social engagement 100% of their visitors have, can you define social engagement in the context you're using it? You mean interaction with one of your plugins?
Yeah. So so the question is, how do we define social engagement?
Specifically in context of engaging evaluating 100% of the visitors.
Right. So the first categorization that we do is we actually just look, is someone social versus non-social? Social being defined as having a Facebook or a Twitter ID or was a direct referral from one of the top 20 social networks out there. Once we recognize that the folks are part of a social network, then the technology starts to take over to recognize, are they a fan? Have they ever shared? Have they ever connected using some form of social sign-on? And or have they taken multiple actions? What you might find out is that you have some people who are social and you yet don't know, and you have a hypothesis that they might be your fan. We actually have some advanced implementations that can allow you to start to understand truly at a deeper level whether someone is a fan versus not being a fan. But at bare minimum, the more important thing to recognize is, are people social when they're coming to your site, and have they ever socially engaged with you in the first place? Just having that first point of information, that second point of information, can cause you to start acting way differently with respect to the content that you show and the offers that you provide. Again, I'm up here making sure that people recognize that we've seen this game before, of people wanting to all of a sudden take giant leaps with respect to changing their organizations, and we're up here saying there are some easy first and second steps that can help equip the people in this room with a lot of ammunition to starting to transform the way that they operate using what is, again, the largest behavioral database that ever existed. I think I'm literally on a soapbox when I'm saying that. Other questions? Cool. If you do, you can find me afterward. I'll be around. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Lance.